The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the David Pakman Show. Hi to everyone watching live on YouTube. As always, Monday through Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, including everybody from the We Survive Bush, You'll Survive Obama Facebook page and the I Love It When I Wake Up in the Morning and Barack Obama is President Facebook page. You know, it's happening even faster than I imagined, Lewis, that the Republican Party is starting to fall apart. We are starting to see division, we are starting to see derision, and we are starting to see total apoplexy on the behalf of many of these right-wingers. I want to go through three of these. Rush Limbaugh, Herman Cain, and Glenn Beck, each more absurd than the last. Let's start first with Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh, you know, this isn't really an indication of craziness from Rush Limbaugh. It's actually an indication he seems to realize what's going on, saying on his radio show yesterday, we are outnumbered and we are losing ground. Listen to what he had to say, Lewis.
We have to face some truths. We have to face some reality. We are outnumbered and we are losing ground. This was not a glitch. This is the trend that happened last night. This is the trend. We are outnumbered. Whether you want to put it in terms of have we lost the country or not, there's no other explanation. I don't care if there are more Republicans that didn't vote. Why didn't they? I don't want to talk about the people that didn't vote. That just means we didn't get our vote out. I don't want to talk about election strategy. I want to talk about the results.
You know, he's not bringing up the Hurricane Sandy thing, which even Mitt Romney is doing at this point. Maybe Rush Limbaugh's being realistic here, and it's showing us exactly how quickly the Republican Party is starting to fall apart.
It sounds like for the first time in a long time he's saying something that makes sense. What he might suggest to remedy the situation will probably be complete insanity, but he's right.
The Republican Party is in trouble. Alec Baldwin sent out a hilarious tweet saying, you know your party is in trouble when people ask, did the rape guy win? And you have to ask, which one, right? I mean, multiple rape guys in the Republican Party. Rush has to face it. People do have internet now, right? Hate radio and corporate TV are not the only sources of information at this point.
I think probably the biggest reason for the, I guess you'd call it fall of the Republican Party, or so it would seem, is probably just the internet and the information age in general.
It may be, and we're seeing so many groups. I mean, Rush Limbaugh is right. The Republican Party lost women. They lost Latino voters. They lost African-American voters. They lost LGBT voters. They, of course, lost the Jewish vote. The base at this point is the white Christian male, and there are less and less of them as a percentage of the voting population. It's time to go back to the drawing board for Republicans here.
Information is the number one enemy of the Republican Party. Information,
facts, critical thinking, science, these are all things that the more they exist, the worse off Republicans are going to be.
For sure.
Salon ran an interesting article outlining Herman Cain's view that there is a Republican civil war brewing here. And actually, he went on the Brian Fisher program on the American Family Association, Focal Point Radio or something like that. Brian Fisher's been a guest on this show, famously saying the rectal wall is only one cell thick. And Herman Cain went on his show, and he said, we need a third party here. And let's get a little bit of a listen at what he had to say, because I think it is interesting. Take a look.
Wound up with a Massachusetts moderate. How do we keep this mistake from happening again?
Well, Brian, I never thought that I would say this, and this is the first time publicly that I have said it. We need a third party to save this country. Not Ron Paul and the Ron Paulites. No, we need a legitimate third party to challenge the current system that we have.
And of course, saying it needs to be a legitimate third party. Herman Cain apparently aware that if you don't have a legitimate third party,
the country has a way of shutting that down.
The country certainly has a way of shutting that down. So the question when I hear a Republican talk about a third party, it makes me ask, do they think they need a third party because the country is clearly moving to the left? Or do they believe they need a third party that is even further to the right of the main Republican Party? I don't know which he's talking about.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and I might agree with him depending on what his answer is.
What do you think, Natan? When Herman Cain talks about a third party, where does it lie on the political spectrum?
I think pretty clearly he imagines or envisions that third party as being farther to the right than Mitt Romney's campaign. And this goes contrary to both the conventional and the logical wisdom that you should get from this election, which is that they need to go more to the center. So I think that, if anything, it's going to hurt them to do something like this.
If they go further to the right. We'll see. We have time now where we can actually analyze and talk to right-wingers about where should a third party be and what would the effect of that be. We don't know yet.
I still say there should be no parties.
Well, that's a whole... You're the Jesse Ventura subscription.
Sure.
All right. Let's go on to number 3, which I mentioned, of course, Glenn Beck. This is one of my favorite clips. Now, let me prepare you for this clip. For people who are only going to be able to hear this, Glenn Beck's new studio, number one, it partly looks like the Oval Office. And he has this huge microphone in front of him, and he talks in this kind of almost like film noir style, and it's filmed with crane shots and moving cameras. That's almost like a dramatic movie. It's really weird. I can't tell if it's completely brilliant or Glenn Beck is out of his mind. I can't tell if he is acting and playing a character or if this is really who Glenn Beck is. I don't know any of that stuff. But this clip I'm about to play for you, courtesy of rightwingwatch.org, is one of the most bogus things I've seen in reference to this election. Glenn Beck talks about his plan of buying farmland and guns. Take a listen to Glenn Beck here.
But it's suicide to sit back. And not just for my company or your company, but for the country. We don't have the luxury of time. I've been telling you for a while, and I've told my own staff, if the president wins, I don't know how we survive. I don't know how we survive the regulation that is coming for my industry. I don't know how we're going to survive the pressure and the tactics, because he has more flexibility now, and they remember their enemies. I don't know how we're going to survive, because I won't compromise. I won't make a deal with the devil. I want you to understand this. Inflation is coming. The fiscal cliff is coming. The dollar fell last night on the news. Your taxes are going up. Your health care costs are going up.
Of course.
Your religion is going to come under attack.
Right.
Gas, coal, and energy is going to become more expensive. Do you remember that list we put out a few months ago of do these things?
So now he has this chalkboard he's referring to.
I will tell you, last week we purchased more farmland as a family. May I recommend, if you have a chance to buy farmland, you buy farmland.
Yeah.
If you live in the East, may I recommend, get the hell out of the East. Find a place where you are surrounded by like-minded people. And the best way to find those people is you should probably look at the maps on how counties voted.
Yeah, there you go. Go to red counties. And this is just so funny because he says, Obama's dividing America. Obama's dividing America. By the way, I recommend stocking up on guns and moving really far away from people who think differently than you. Obama's dividing America, Lewis. We have to do something about it. Also, buy farmland so you can take it because Obama's going to take that from you. Obama's dividing America. He's out of his mind.
This is what people like Glenn Beck have been doing for 4 years now.
Yeah.
They've been scaring people into dividing the country.
Yeah, and accusing Obama of doing that. This whole thing, he has like the big mic. This is the Glenn Beck show at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you that we deserve to be destroyed because God wanted Mitt Romney to win. And now, our ultimate destruction is near.
How can anyone listen to this?
I don't know. It's so hard to listen to. It's so hard to... Imagine if the entire show was like this. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. Very special new member today. Louis Motamedi. He's dividing America by supporting liberal media, but very, very special new member today.
I wouldn't watch the show. I wouldn't be a part of it.
Please join us on Facebook. I mean, how is this happening? And the guy, he still is doing well, right? That's the most incredible thing with the big microphone and the dramatic delivery, film noir.
Pretending to do his show from the Oval Office.
It's unbelievable.
There's one more thing here. I want to go back to this point that he made about he's basically suggesting to Republicans that are deflected from what just happened to leave where they are, buy farmland, and be with like-minded people. This is the whole problem that the Republican Party has. They are filled with like-minded people.
Yeah.
The country is not filled with like-minded people, and they've just made a choice to go with a broad array of differing opinions and different ethnicities
That's exactly
and different
right.
ideas.
There are some cities in this country, and buildings over 5 stories are the work of the devil. And I encourage you, ladies and gentlemen, to move where things are flatter. Be with people who have sawed-off shotguns and know how to use them, because Obama is dividing America, Lewis.
You know what Glenn should do? He should take all of his money, buy some small island in the middle of nowhere. Him and all his followers can just go there.
Isn't that how cults get started a lot?
It already is a cult.
There you go.
It already is.
The racism exploding after the President Obama re-election. Ole Miss students down in Mississippi yelling out racial slurs in a campus riot, protesting President Obama's re-election. More than 400 students gathered to protest the re-election. 2 of them were arrested, one of them for public intoxication. Word started spreading over social media, and the crowd started growing more and more and more, chanting and yelling racial slurs, anti-Obama rhetoric, throwing rocks at cars. The Ole Miss chancellor said about the student body that they took a very immature and uncivil approach to expressing their views about the election. Yeah, I would say that that's an understatement.
No kidding. Who knows what would happen to their student loans had Mitt Romney become president?
Yeah, that's the reality. And
Yeah.
the administration from Ole Miss also condemned the racial epithets, and they called for students to recommit themselves to tolerance. Yes, racist students, you have to tolerate the black man in the White House. Please tolerate him. The other funny thing is Drudge Report, this is really funny. When there are liberals protesting, like around the entire Occupy movement, whenever an individual occupier was caught doing something wrong, Drudge would put it up there as in, look at these bad protesters. And then when it was anti-Obama protests, because they're so angry, Drudge puts it up there, and other conservatives as in, wow, look at the type of stuff that Obama's causing. It's
Right.
Obama's fault that all these kids are so angry.
Nah, no doubt.
Also, a lot of racist tweets from Obama. Natan, let's see if we can put that up on our monitors, but also full screen. This is just a compilation of various racist tweets that went out, and it's everything from, I really just can't stand that monkey in office any longer. That's Davis Moody on Twitter. Shelley saying, I'm disappointed that my state voted for the N-word. Of course, disappointed misspelled, interestingly enough. There's a Lauren saying, can we all just get out and vote for Romney so we can get this N-word out of office? Can't wait for Mitt Romney. Someone called I'm Not Racist, but they are anti-dark-skinned is their username. Can't wait for Mitt Romney to win the elections and kick that filthy N-word Obama and his family out of the White House. First thing my mom said this morning, did you hear the bad news? The monkey is staying for another 4 years. Now, this correlates perfectly with the messages I started getting. I'm not even black, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'm from Argentina, and Lewis is an Asian American of sorts, of being of Iranian background. But I started getting all sorts of racist comments and all sorts of angry emails. Damn coward is one I got. I don't know what that even means. I don't know. Another message to me, you deserve to die a slow and painful death, and I will be laughing when it happens. So
They must be talking about the rapture.
maybe they are.
Yeah.
Everybody coming out of the woodwork. Quite incredible.
I mean, the good news is the election made it very clear that these people are the minority.
Yes, that seems to be the case.
So if you are one of these people, you are outnumbered and
you are getting pushed out.
losing ground.
Yeah, you are losing. As
Yeah.
Rush Limbaugh indicated.
You lost. Congratulations, you lost.
Because of the Obama win, we decided to set up our best membership special ever, and it's been exploding over the last 24 hours, Lewis. It goes on for 24 more hours. Here's the deal. You get a 1-year David Pakman Show membership and a David Pakman Show hoodie, which, by the way, is made from 100% recycled materials. They use no new materials to make our hoodies, your choice of size and color. The thing is this. You have to go to davidpakman.com/2012wins. That's 2012 WINS. You have to go to that page. 24 more hours, 40% off. People are loving this thing, Lewis. I don't know if it's exuberance over the Obama win, the realization of how important independent media is, given the failure of mainstream media to report accurate news over the last year about this election. I don't know what it is. People very, very excited.
It's a great thing.
davidpakman.com/2012wins. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about who is blaming Hurricane Sandy for the Romney loss. The guy at the top actually is Mitt Romney himself. Stay tuned. A lot more coming up.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome back to the show. Let's say hello to a new David Pakman Show member of the day today, made possible in part by liberalbias.com. Some people say conservatives are anti-science, but have you ever stopped to think that maybe science itself is anti-conservative? Sounds like liberal bias to me, Lewis.
I think so.
Find out more at liberalbias.com. Today's new member of the day, Donald Zwink. It's great to have Donald Zwink aboard. I don't know for sure, but I have to assume that if we go alphabetically by last names, a last name that starts with Z followed by W has to be pretty close to last on that list, don't you think?
Probably.
What would go after that?
Nothing I can think of.
It would have to start with ZX.
X.
I don't know.
Or ZY.
ZY.
ZY is a possibility.
ZY is possible, but I don't think we have anybody.
If someone's last name is like Zygote or something like that.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Rick Santorum Zygote actually just signed up as we were just talking. He did the hoodie special.
Really?
And I guess that goes after Donald Zwink.
Donald has been dethroned.
Mitt Romney is blaming Hurricane Sandy for losing the election. It was only a matter of time until it happened, ladies and gentlemen. He's taking zero responsibility for being defeated handily by Barack Obama. He is instead blaming Hurricane Sandy for killing the momentum he had, which of course has been proven not to have existed.
Right.
This was according to the Washington Post, quote, "At the Wednesday breakfast, Romney told the donors he believed Hurricane Sandy stunted his momentum in the final week of the campaign, according to multiple donors present. Some Romney supporters are blaming Chris Christie, while others are blaming the Romney campaign itself. Election defeats are personal rejection, so it wouldn't be surprising for Romney to look for external factors." The thing is, Romney didn't have momentum, right? I mean, he had this, there was this shift after debate one, and then the polls started to go back to exactly where they were pre-debate number one, and that's kind of it. I mean, am I off on this, Natan?
No, absolutely. The myth of Romentum, or Mitmentum, as Sam Wong was saying on his blog. Yeah, unless you trust Dick Morris and Karl Rove, who are always correct in their predictions, I think the hurricane was just the icing on the cake for Obama. Things were looking to go his way before them.
And Lewis, as far as trusting Karl Rove goes, who wouldn't trust a guy who spends $300 million and loses every race he's supporting?
Right. Let's just remember, hopefully next election people will remember this one.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's a difference between momentum and hype, right? Because there was certainly plenty of hype.
Yeah, especially hype coming from your own campaign.
Right, right. You do have to hype up your own campaign. So there was tons of hype.
Bill O'Reilly has been repeating numerous times now, also the thing about Hurricane Sandy. Here he was on election night, and he repeated this exact same thing on Katie Couric's show, her morning show. Maybe that's her only show at this point. I'm not completely up to speed on Katie.
I believe she does two shows.
Does she do two now?
I think so.
In any case, this was Bill O'Reilly jumping on the bandwagon with Hurricane Sandy.
But I didn't pick up two things. On the exit polling, Hurricane Sandy was prominent in the exit polling. And that's really interesting because it just impacted a bunch of Northeast states who would vote for Barack Obama anyway. But the country was so locked in on this fierce storm. I mean, Americans like storms. And they were and there was Chris Christie and President Obama walking down the beach, you know, with little Seth and the Moonglow music behind him. And it just wiped the governor's campaign off the map.
All right, let's discuss this, because what he says is interesting. The idea that Romney would have otherwise won if it weren't for this timing that resulted in President Obama responding to Hurricane Sandy. The idea that that's the case, any one factor can affect the election. We don't know exactly how. Let's put that aside. But the interesting thing is this. If all it took was seeing President Obama being an adult and Republicans working with him to get people to vote for Obama, that's actually a legitimate reason to vote for the guy. That's not any kind of trick or underhanded thing.
Right.
The guy was doing his job. people approve of the job he was doing, and therefore they vote for him.
That's exactly how it happens. You exercise a little bipartisanship, and all
and
the
that's
better.
the thing. It's not even bipartisanship. In other words,
Well,
people are so...
That's right, but it's interpreted as bipartisanship.
That's right, because people are so... I don't know what even the term is. They're kind of... they're so... All they see is the partisan bickering. And then they see, oh, New Jersey governor is the governor, so he goes where there's damage. The president is the president. He goes where there's damage. They're there at the same time. They're there together. They're able to not have a fist fight. Wow, interesting.
Imagine what the commentary would have been from the right if the governor of New Jersey was a Democrat.
Right, no question.
You know what's interesting about this? That Chris Matthews got into really hot water on election night when late at night, I think it was 3 a.m, he said, the hurricane was great.
Yeah, we talked about
Obama.
it yesterday.
Right, so we talked about it. And then he apologized yesterday on the air for about 5 minutes for it, and he was wrong to act like it was a great thing. It was obviously terrible. But even he, who's on the left, thinks that it was a key part of what happened, that Obama's victory, or maybe the margin of victory, was related to the hurricane.
Do you buy that?
I think that it might have had a significant effect. I don't think Romney would have won without it, but I think it definitely stopped the national discussion on Romney's campaign. His campaign was almost just halted during the hurricane.
Lewis?
Obama would have won either way.
I think so, too. Hilarious FoxNews.com article that came out, which is now blaming the mainstream media, which Fox News, of course, claims is liberal, which is not the case. They're blaming the mainstream media of tipping the scales in President Obama's favor, and they cite 5 reasons, and they're really, really funny. Number 1, what they call the media's bias gaffe patrol. That it was hammering Romney on silly gaffes that didn't matter. Number 2, pounding Mitt Romney with partisan fact-checking. If it's a fact, it's not partisan. Okay, that's the reality. Now, they claim that there were inaccurate fact-checkings. No evidence of that if you actually look at the real fact-checking organizations. Mitt Romney was just lying, and he was getting called out for it. The media was doing their job, if you believe this list of 5 little things. Number 3, they claim that the debate moderators were biased. Number 4, they claimed there was a concerted effort to black out anything negative about Benghazi relative to President Obama. And number 5, that they buried the bad economy. Of course, job numbers were good, and stocks have been doing well. So this is a funny list, isn't it, Lewis?
It is exactly what I'd expect from Fox.
It's kind of a blame anybody but us type of thing.
Right.
Natan, any thoughts on that?
No, I think it's pretty clear that pretty much everyone on that network was wrong in everything they were saying about what the electorate was, what the campaign was about, and now they're just trying to justify it.
Remember how Ted Nugent, claiming that the Obama presidency re-election would be really bad, or whatever it was he was claiming, said, in a year, if Obama's re-elected, I will either be dead or in jail. If you don't remember that, here's what Ted Nugent had to say in April of 2012.
Let Obama take office again. Because I tell you this right now, if Barack Obama becomes the president in November again, I will either be dead or in jail by this time next year.
All right, so that gives us until April of 2013 for Ted Nugent to either be dead or in jail. We're going to keep an eye on it. What's going to happen? I mean, now that President Obama has been reelected, what will be the mechanism through which it results in Ted Nugent either dying or being in jail? I don't know. I have no idea.
My prediction is that neither of those two will come true.
Is that what you think?
I think so.
You think it's just typical hyperbole, just like a Republican saying we're going to move to Australia, even though Australia is like a far-left country?
Of course.
Natan, what do you think will happen with Nugent here?
Fortunately, I think that no matter what happens to Ted Nugent, he's going to have a very marginal effect on the national debate. So, more power to him. I'd prefer it if he went to Australia, although we talked yesterday about how that's not necessarily good for a right-wing person to do. But if he stays here, more power to him.
Lewis, do you plan on moving people in from other countries as a result of the Obama re-election?
Personally, no.
No, okay.
No.
Fair enough.
I plan
Puerto Rico
to keep doing the show here.
Well, we might move all of Puerto Rico in as a new blue state.
That's true. Yeah,
We'll
very
talk
good
about
point.
that. Facebook.com/David Pakman Show. 24 hours left on the membership plus hoodie 40% off special. But you have to know the address. You have to go to davidpakman.com/2012wins in order to take advantage of that. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the European and British reaction to President Obama's re-election and plenty more. Thanks for being with us.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
It's Thursday, time for Worldview with Dennis Campbell. Dennis is editor-in-chief of UK Progressive Magazine. The book is Billionaire Boys, Election Freak Show. Time for our first post-election check-in with Dennis. Dennis, let's just get right into it. What has been British and European reaction to the re-election of President Obama by a hefty electoral vote margin?
Well, there's certainly been a number of sighs of relief amongst people with whom I deal with on a regular basis. I've become a bit of an America's expert over here, so I've done quite a bit. I spent 2.5 hours yesterday afternoon on the BBC's radio program, where we were just pretty much in studio the whole time, and a parade of guests came through, including a Republican blogger for Republicans Abroad, and that was very interesting to be opposite him trying to spin this whole result. At one point, he started to say that he expected the president to increase taxes up to 70%. I said, no, just a second. He wants to take it from 36% to 39%, and it's real clear that they haven't got the message, that they indeed lost, and that indeed you're going to have a president and indeed a black man for the next 4 years. But generally, people here are very, very excited. I've been doing interviews for outlets all over the globe, and the reaction has been one of great relief, because they really thought that a return to the Bush neocon days would not be beneficial to anybody anywhere in the world.
Let's talk about that George W. Bush-Mitt Romney comparison, because here in the U.S., it didn't really become a major theme. I thought it would have been one of the strongest comparisons to make and say, listen, the Mitt Romney policy is basically the Bush policy that we've already seen doesn't work. Towards the end of the campaign, the Obama team started saying the Romney policies have been tried and they don't work, but there wasn't really a strong invocation of George W. Bush. Over on your side, is that a likening that was very present?
Yes, it was. You have to keep in mind, again, all the polls I saw in the U.S., and particularly those from that rather demonic Nate Silver, the one that everybody seemed to hate except us that really believe in mathematics and science, were saying that foreign policy was really only about 4% of the equation. Most people in the United States were interested in the economy, jobs, things of that sort. But of those that, of course, live abroad and those that pay attention to what happens in the U.S., yes, trade policy is important, but most importantly, they were very much afraid of a return to the Bush era and the neocon policies. We had a statement from the Prime Minister, David Cameron, here the day after. He was still in, I think it was Dubai, on his way back for a meeting with Angela Merkel. And he said he was very pleased to see President Obama had been reelected. He enjoyed their working relationship, and he made it very clear with what he did not say, that he was not looking forward to having to start a relationship all over again with the Bush neocons. He likes being on a fairly level footing with the Obama administration.
We talked yesterday about some of these state propositions and extra questions and some of the results, which included multiple popular votes for marriage equality, as well as the legalization of marijuana in Colorado and Washington. I'm curious, what is the European and British reaction to those? Because in some sense, I have to feel like there has to be a sense that, wow, individual states are still voting on this stuff? I mean, does it appear to be kind of backward, or what's the reaction to those over there?
Yeah, it's really kind of interesting. We've had a situation arise where the Tories, of all people, these are the Conservative Party. This is the party that would be most closely aligned to the Republican Party in the United States, have come out very strongly in favor of marriage equality. And they've been threatened by both the Catholic Church and the Archbishop of Canterbury and the whole Anglican synod, that this would not be a good move. However, they seem to think very strongly, as of course do Labor and everybody else, that government has no business in this decision. And if indeed two members of the same sex want to have a marriage and a committed relationship, we should be rewarding that without any issue whatsoever. Some of the other issues, such as marijuana smoking and things of that sort, there have been some interesting things across the channel in Amsterdam. I remember I spent 5.5 years living in the Netherlands. And of course, there in the coffee shops and throughout the entire society, the decriminalization of soft drugs has been part of the lexicon for a number of years. So the idea that you've seen now the three strikes you're out bill pass in the softening of that in California as a ballot initiative, that's considered to be very good news, and a lot of people couldn't even believe that you would put people in prison after 3 convictions for something as minor as that and not give them the chance at parole.
What do we expect, quickly, kind of in the last bit of time we have here, what do we expect to be the next first big conversation between President Obama in this next term and the UK?
Well, I think it's going to be not just the UK, but all of the EU. There are some calls by both David Cameron and some of the members of the EU for a US-EU trade agreement so that we avoid some of the tariff disputes that we've had on things such as aircraft and other areas. So I think there's going to be some discussion on that very early on because everybody wants to jumpstart the manufacturing sector of their respective economies. Of course, in the U.S., the favorite relationship with Boeing is always taken very good care of, as is the Airbus relationship, which is the European conglomerate that produces Airbuses. And so there's going to be continued friction over that. There's going to be continued friction over airlines and airline slots and things of that sort. But on the whole, I think you're going to see a much more favorable and smooth relationship because everybody's already in place. Some of the key cabinet members will change in the U.S., but the relationship is strong and most people are already working together.
All right, Dennis Campbell, editor-in-chief of UK Progressive Magazine, Billionaire Boys, Election Freak Show, the book, Egypt Unshackled as well. Dennis, thanks as always.
Thank you.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. Please support the show by becoming a David Pakman Show member at davidpakman.com/membership. If it's in the next 24 hours, get a hoodie with your 1-year membership for 40% off. Go to davidpakman.com/2012wins. Millicent Owar, who is a new Kenyan mom, has named the newborn twins Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. Now, this is interesting, number one, of course, because so many people say that President Obama is Kenyan. We know a lot of those people are named Donald Trump. She decided to name one of them Barack Obama and the other Mitt Romney. So the birth took place in the village of Kogelo, where President Obama's father was actually born. And while she was preparing to deliver the twins, the village was actually celebrating President Obama's re-election. According to Reuters, there were a number of babies born at the nearby hospital who were named after President Obama, but this is the only one who was named after Mitt Romney. What do you think?
I don't understand it.
Right. No, you're making a really good point.
I just don't get it.
If this was the U.S., I would say that giving these kids these names is putting them in a really bad situation to get made fun of, et cetera, et cetera. Being in a different country and in a completely different culture that's really far from American culture, maybe having these names won't even really affect them. Mostly the Mitt Romney one. I guess there's a lot of kids with the Obama name in some way. Maybe it's just not even going to be a factor there.
You have to wonder if this woman is just aware of who Mitt Romney really is.
Well, she knows that there are 2 candidates and that there were 2 candidates.
You would assume that if you name your child after someone, you are at least somewhat fond of them.
Really?
Right?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm not sure.
That would be my guess.
Well, you're the one who famously said if you accidentally had a kid, you would probably love the kid. Let's say you did love the kid and you decided to name it. Would you name the kid after something or someone over which you were fond?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I might maintain the Jewish tradition and name the child after another family member.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay. A family member who is not alive.
Right.
Okay. Well, there you go. There's a little bit of insight into Lewis's baby naming. Didn't think we were going to Lewis baby naming today, I have to be honest.
Well, there's a story about baby naming, so it's logical.
There it is. Remember those 4 CEOs who threatened to fire workers if President Obama won? There was David Siegel of Westgate Resorts, Scott Farmer, the CEO of the uniform company Cintas, Mike White, the CEO of Right Height, which makes loading dock equipment, and Richard Lax, who is the CEO of Lax Enterprises, which makes car parts. We also had those letters from the Koch brothers kind of implying things might not be ideal if President Obama is reelected. What now? Are they going to start firing employees? We're going to be keeping an eye on it. They cited Obamacare. They cited taxes. But now it's time to make some decisions. Are they going to put their money where their mouths once were and make the decisions they claim they're going to need to make because of what's going to happen to the economy if President Obama is reelected?
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Hard to say. I don't know.
On today's bonus show, we'll talk about a Las Vegas businessman who actually already fired over 20 people, claiming it's because of the election.
And clearly did not need to. We will get into all the minutia of that.
That's on the bonus show today. So we'll keep an eye on this. And we'll also see whether anything at all, it seems like after the election we forget about so many of the pre-election things. Will there be any lawsuits for intimidation or coercion from employers surrounding voting? I really don't know.
Will Chuck Norris be correct, and will we see 1,000 years of darkness?
I don't know. That's a good question. Republicans are already crumbling on tax increases. We have this fiscal cliff situation coming up with some automatic spending cuts, as well as the expiration of the George W. Bush tax cuts. Now, we have heard for a really long time from Republicans, they will not do anything, even on a 10-to-1 ratio of cuts to tax increases that will increase taxes. The latest is that House Speaker John Boehner offered to pursue a deal with President Obama that might include higher taxes, quote, under the right conditions to help reduce the nation's debt and put finances in order. He said, Mr. President, this is your moment. We want you to lead. This is fascinating. Next week, we'll have economist Richard Wolff, also my former professor from my undergraduate alma mater, the University of Massachusetts. We'll have him on to talk about what are the actual implications of this fiscal cliff, what are the possibilities for what can be done, what is likely to happen, the economic impacts, etc. I don't think any of us are surprised to see now that John Boehner is changing the tune, because it could be argued that the Republicans have a lot to lose if it appears that they are the ones preventing a deal from getting done to avoid the fiscal cliff.
Well, look what Boehner did before. I mean, he basically says that he wants to make a deal with the president, and he's trying to be bipartisan. He's suggesting things to the president. Well, the things he's suggesting just aren't going to work, and are usually pretty ridiculous. So the deal he's probably trying to make is one that he wants the president to reject, so he can point the finger and say, look, the president is not being bipartisan.
That's an idea. It's setting it up so that they can appear to be the ones that are working. Natan, what's your prediction on this? Do you think they're going to go back on the tax increases and use the Democratic explanation of, hey, it's just old tax cuts expiring. We're not really raising rates?
I think they are going to use that if they go along with it. The question is, who has more to lose here? And I think the Republicans have more to lose because they don't want the Bush tax cuts to expire, and that's what's going to happen if they don't come to a compromise. And there's going to be a ton of defense spending cuts. There's going to be less cuts, if any at all. I don't actually know if there are any cuts to entitlements. So basically the Republican platform is the one that's going to lose if they don't have a compromise.
I think you're right. I think that's exactly right. And we're at a point where, this happened in 2008 and 2010, where in 2008 President Obama came in with the idea of bipartisanship and compromise, et cetera. And nothing happened, right? I mean, it was like pulling teeth to get anything done other than Obamacare. And then after 2010, when Republicans did very well in Congress, the idea from me and from some other progressives was President Obama should forget about this idea of bipartisanship. Bipartisanship is only going to lead to nothing happening, and it's time to start moving forward without Republicans as much as possible. More so now because there is no upcoming election for President Obama, although I wish re-elections didn't affect this. It's time to do what he needs to do. He already alluded to some pretty progressive stuff in the victory speech on Tuesday night. Let's move forward. Let's do stuff. Forget about Republicans, because we know they're going to try to repeal or get in the way of anything you do now. Do as much as possible to make it tougher for them, no matter what happens in the next election.
That is a good idea, because I don't think we're going to see cooperation on their behalf. Unfortunately, they control the House, but Obama, there is so much Obama needs to do.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Let's get to some of your voicemails. Our voicemail line is open 24 hours a day. The number is 219-2-DAVID-P. Here is one voicemail asking about Jesse Jackson Jr. Take a listen to this.
Woo, Obama won. No, but I was calling to hear you guys' thought on the whole JJ Jr. situation. I don't know that Jesse Jr., but I don't know, like, what the heck happened down there. I just really want to hear you guys' thought on what happened. Like, how can he be reelected? Is it because his dad? I know he's a prominent figure.
Yeah, so to get people up to speed, Jesse Jackson Jr. has been battling some kind of not too particularly specified emotional issue, depression, or he had some kind of a breakdown. It's not clear. He's been basically absent from the House of Representatives. He's been in rehab, he's been in treatment, but he still won. He won re-election. Now, I don't know the details. Natan, do you know, did he have a legitimate challenger?
I have no idea. I totally forgot about this. If he didn't have a challenger, that's why he won. If he did have a challenger, the challenger has some explaining to do because this guy didn't even campaign.
Where was he elected?
Can we get that information? I don't know what House seat it is that Jesse Jackson Jr. has. Let's actually look it up because I wasn't expecting to look at this email here. So he's from a congressman from Illinois. Okay, that's the seat there. And he is involved in plea deal talks right now. He got reelected. It's just very unclear what on earth happened with Jesse Jackson Jr. I really don't think that his father is the reason why this happened. It just may be apathy. I mean, I'm really not sure. He's been on medical leave since June. He's in the 2nd Congressional District there. It's bipolar disorder that he's being treated for at the Mayo Clinic.
It could just be that the people who elected him, that area, they just happen to be really fond of him. I mean,
Brian Woodworth is an attorney and university professor who lost to Jesse Jackson Jr. here, and Jesse Jackson Jr. has been missing for a while. A fascinating story.
Very strange.
And here's another voicemail. Let's take a listen to this one.
Hi guys, Nina here. Just one comment and one question. Regarding the Republican Party moving further towards the center, I'm not sure that that's guaranteed. Yeah, they were defeated in the presidential election, but they could easily say that they were defeated because Mitt Romney wasn't conservative enough, because he was a flip-flopper, and because he is, quote-unquote, a North American liberal Republican.
Northeastern liberal Republican, I think is what she means. This is very true. It's possible. We don't know. And you know what? If this is the case, if the Republicans take the attitude that there's nothing at all wrong with their positions, the only problem was Mitt Romney flip-flopped and blah, 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 that's not going to be good for Republicans because the reality is the country is moving left. Look at the state propositions that were passed.
That's it. That's how you can tell.
Natan, what's your thought on that? Do you think the Republicans will have any kind of self-analysis that will lead them to think this wasn't just about Romney, it's about the issues?
Right. So there's definitely people, Republicans, who know what happened here demographically, who know what's going to happen if the party doesn't move to the center. The question is whether the people that are going to control the platform of the party and the at-large party in the South and the Midwest are going to actually heed that and change it, or it's just going to be controlled by the Tea Partiers. So we don't know that yet, but hopefully, well, for us, it's kind of a win-win. If they stay on the right, they're going to lose. And if they move to the center, the whole country has moved to the left.
Right. If they stay on the right, then the kind of current slew of Democrats will probably do well. If the Republican Party does actually moderate in some way, it's just kind of going to reset the mean of political positions and allow Democrats to move even slightly further to the left, which would be good because let's be honest, American Democratic politicians in the world context are really not that liberal.
Pretty moderate.
That's exactly right. They're pretty moderate. And the idea that President Obama is very liberal also is laughable if we look really at a worldwide context. Within the American political system, he is a center, slightly left guy, and that's kind of the situation. DavidPakman.com/2012wins. Going on 24 more hours, 40% off a one-year membership combined with a David Pakman Show hoodie. What can I say?
Can't beat it.
Can't beat it. It's time to do it. That's it for today. We'll talk to you Monday afternoon.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.